right. So welcome everyone. If you just joined us, we are inviting you to enter your name and chapter in the group chat so you can say hello and let us know who's here, who's in the room. Welcome to our Vision 2030 program update for chapter board directors. I'm Omari Aarons Martin, NAAIA's president and CEO, and excited to be here with you and provide you this update on our strategic plan. We rolled out the Vision 2030 strategic plan in 2023 officially, and have really been making some really great progress on the plan overall. So excited to share that with you and then also give you a preview of what you can expect next. Before we dive into the content, my boss is here. And so I want to invite Ricky Jones, who is NAAIA National Board Chair and Regional Vice President for Enterprise Distribution and Agency Experience at Travelers, to just come and say hello. So Ricky, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Omari, and welcome to everyone. I'm looking at the names in the chat. It's pretty active over here, so it's great to see what's being written and seeing the faces and looking at the comments. But just wanted to pop in on this meeting to hear the update for a little while. I'm actually in transition between going to visit one of our distribution partners, but I told Omari, we were talking for the last half hour, that I was going to spend a little bit of time. And I see Ramir on here. I was just with him last night. We did some work in New York City. So I'm calling you from New York City. Hopefully everybody's doing well, and eager to hear about the update, but also praying to see as many as you as possible when we get ready to do our annual conference in Philly as well. So hope to see everybody there as well. So enjoy the meeting, enjoy the update, and a lot of great work is being done by our organization, and we still have a lot of fertile ground to tackle as well. So thanks for all of the things that you're doing. Thanks for all the hard work that's being done, and I look forward to seeing everybody soon. So thanks, Omari.
Thank you, Ricky. That was all of my opening comments right there as well. So I'm gonna say everything Ricky just said. We are excited and delighted to have this meeting and this update. And my primary message whenever I have the opportunity to talk to chapter leaders as well is just to say thank you. We recognize, and we heard it loud and clear as well in last year's census and in this year's NAAIA census, that the role, the experience that our members have in their chapter is such a strong proponent and communicator of the NAAIA value proposition. And I frequently say that our chapters are the first and primary face of NAAIA, now in 32 communities across the United States and growing. And so I just thank you for the work that you are doing, the programs that you put on, the networking events, the professional development, the fireside chats, the virtual events. All of it really does make a difference for folks. And we see that from both from our empirical data and the surveys that our members take about their experience with us, and what they value most and what they've been able to utilize for themselves in their careers, and how that has changed the trajectory of their careers as well. But we also see it, one of the things I love doing is logging onto LinkedIn and seeing all the promotions, all the role changes that have happened, all the good news that is being shared from our members publicly as well. So we know that this work is having an impact and is really helping people to move forward. So because we have so many new chapter board directors, what I wanted to do briefly is just make sure that we are all aligned on what is this thing called Vision 2030 that you have seen in our annual report and that you've heard referenced on webinars, and you'll hear at our membership town hall at the end this month as well. So just want to make sure that we are all grounded in what that is and why we are doing it. And then also want to talk to you about and share with you and really celebrate with you some of the wins that we've had already 2 years into the Vision 2030 strategy. So we've already seen success and that we are tracking well toward the goals that we've laid out. And then want to give you a preview of some of the things that you can expect to see next. And so while not confidential, these are not widely known yet. And so you'll see them being shared in updates at our membership town hall, as well as our annual member meeting at conference and our State of NAAIA program in December, but you will hear them now. And then as we always do along the way, as you have questions, you can feel free to put them in the chat as well, but I will certainly pause at different portions as well, just to see if there are questions out there or discussion that we need to engage in. But my goal is that we will certainly have, I'm not talking for an hour and a half, I promise you. My goal is that we certainly will have time for question and answer suggestions as well as we get through the presentation. So with that, why don't we go ahead and get started? We made a shift in 2023 as we were doing work around NAAIA's updated brand and visual identity. So the process while we were creating this logo and all the visual assets, we had about 250 people, chapter leaders, partner liaisons, national board members, past and present, former chapter leaders, a number of industry partners as well, people that were familiar with who we were at NAAIA and the work that we were doing, that we surveyed and we did focus groups. And as part of that process, we asked a lot of questions, not about just colors that you see that resonate when you think about NAAIA, but also really the emotional connection, where people wanted to see NAAIA do more things, some things people wanted to see us stop doing as well. Really where people saw that we could make an impact. And a large part of that, through all of our different survey mechanisms, came back to that we are communal at nature, and community is the heart of who we are and what it is that we do. And so recognizing that we were founded by a Black independent agent to primarily serve Blacks and African Americans who were not getting access to professional development, to leadership development, to personal development inside of our organizations across the industry, that NAAIA would be a home for that. And we already saw a significant number of efforts throughout our chapter network where NAAIA was going beyond professional development and really reaching back through community service, through education programs, through career days, through partnering with the National Invest Program or Junior Achievement, partnering with local schools, just a number of initiatives to really help educate families on what insurance is at its core, why you need it, why it's not something to be afraid of, and how you can embrace it. And so we really shifted and sharpened, I would say, our message to reflect the NAAIA that we already were, and put words to paper and in all of our graphics to really ensure that that was present. This already, at our core, we are a professional development organization. That is what we have been doing for 28 years since we were founded in March of 1997. And we have continued to grow exponentially year over year over year since then. So we are now at 3,100 members, 85 national partners and conference sponsors, 32 chapters now across the US, soon a few more that will be joining that network as well. And so we are continuing to grow our presence. In our mission collectively, what NAAIA National is doing, what the NAAIA Foundation is doing, what each NAAIA chapter is doing, is really diversifying the insurance industry's talent landscape at every level. And there's several ways in which we accomplish that mission, but our mission is universal and shared by all of us. And so The primary ways in which we accomplish that as a national organization is number one, through our chapter network. So that is the programs that you put on and host in your community, the direct access that people have by sitting next to each other at a program and forming relationships and forming friendships and becoming family. And then also through our partner network. And so we call our partners, our financial sponsors, partners, because we recognize that it is more than a financial transaction, that we're asking them to be serious about the commitment that they are making to equity, to inclusion, to belonging, to diversity, whenever they put their logo next to ours, and if they have their logo on our site. There's a higher level ask than just them paying the invoice that we send them as well. Why this strategy? So I would imagine certainly all of you are familiar that in 2018, NAAIA and Marsh partnered together to do the Journey of African American Insurance Professionals study, and that we had a follow-up to that study in 2023 called The Next Steps on the Journey, Has Anything Changed? And all of those studies, both of those studies, I should say, in concert with several other studies, confirmed that racial and gender bias are still top barriers to entry, retention, and advancement in the insurance industry. And so when we really thought about what are the problems that we are seeking to solve from the Vision 2030 strategy, first it was around creating access. And so how do we increase the recruitment, the development, the promotion, the recognition of Blacks and African American professionals in our organizations? And so doing that through not just educational access to professional development, but also to mentorship, to job postings, to career coaching, and sponsorship programs that are happening inside of organizations as well. Second is really addressing the trust gap that exists, right? There's earned distrust from the way that the financial institutions and systems have historically, and in some cases presently, actively worked to remove access and to create distance and gaps for the Black and African American community, right? And so, how do we show as a professional association that our members are in this industry, we're not just here, we are leading this industry as well. We are leading changes to be more inclusive in our policies and our practices, there are folks on the other end of the phone who get it, and who are working in our best interests. So closing the trust gap that exists. And then the third was really thinking about the future of work and what that means for Blacks and African Americans in the insurance industry. And so recognizing that the racial pay gap and the gender pay gap are still very much present, that there is still a lack of exposure to identify insurance and risk management as careers of choice and as an industry of choice among high school students and college students. And so a lot of problems on the table that we said we'd really like to do more work toward solving strategically. And that is where Vision 2030 came from. We learned some things, particularly as we looked at the 2018 study and the 2023 study, and saw where we were making some progress in the industry. So certainly we saw more mentorship programs be launched. We saw more unconscious bias training in particular roll out across the industry. We saw intentional sponsorship programs. We saw sponsorship of racially diverse organizations in the insurance industry. And so a number of efforts, certainly, around moving forward, but not enough to generate the groundswell of movement that we knew would be needed to really help cover some of those gaps. So that is where our Vision 2030 plan came from. It is our plan to engage US-based communities of color and empower Black professionals through strategic interventions and through our programs. And specifically what that has meant for us, if you look at the left side of this slide, is there's three outcomes that we're after. One is insurance being seen as a career of choice for Black Americans. Two is that insurance is seen as a trusted tool for growing and protecting generational wealth. And so people utilizing the tool, right? Knowing that the tool exists, not having fear of insurance policies, that sort of thing, making sure that they have adequate coverage, they're not, they don't have coverage gaps, right? So that's number two. And then number three is how do we utilize the tools now that we've signed up for as a key driver in closing the racial wealth gap as well. So when we started the strategy in 2023, we were squeaking right into 2,000 members, 23 chapters, just around 75 partners and conference sponsors, our revenue at $1.7 million as well. And we had just increased our Tillman scholarship from $30,000 annually to $50,000 annually. And so then you see the goals on the right side there under 2030 is for us to grow from that 2,000 members to 7,500 members, which represents 2% of Blacks and African Americans in the insurance industry, to have 50 professional chapters, launch student chapters, and also have global affiliates, to really grow our conference sponsors, regional forum sponsors, virtual summit sponsors, and national partners to 150. And to get to $4.5 million in partnership, in addition to the other goals that you see here. And last but certainly not least, is that we have more funding in scholarships and our talent competition and in social impact initiatives, people that are doing really great work that coincides and aligns with the work that we are doing at NAAIA, fits within our strategy. How do we help to support that work that exists? So what we have seen so far related to that strategy is that we continue to grow. I was just running the numbers, and I'm not quite finished, so this is not updated yet, on the difference in 2023 and 2024 numbers as we're walking in. But we have been seeing about a 40% increase as well. And so we are really looking to move to controlled growth as we move toward the 7,500 number and beyond in our membership, so that we are not necessarily adding 50 people every day to NAAIA, but that we get into a growth rate that is really sustainable as we think about how we scale our systems and operations, both at a national level, but then also ways in which you welcome new members, ways in which you're able to engage members. There's significant difference in the venue spaces that we'd be able to go after as we continue to think about the ways in which we are growing. So really being very intentional about where we're growing, how we're growing, and why we are growing in those areas. Second to that is industry engagement. So we have said to a number of industry partners and conferences that NAAIA is open for business, that we have within our membership expert speakers, thought leaders, people who should be on your main stage and presenting in workshops. I'm here in New York at InsurTech Insights, and there are 4 or 5 NAAIA members that are in the lineup who are speaking on different stages and different parts of the program. That's different than what we were doing 3 years ago with InsurTech Insights. And we can name a number of organizations, probably most prominently RIMS with Risk World, where for the last 3 years, we've been doing intentional programming there as well. NAAFA's conference, a number of industry conferences that we've been present and really showcasing the NAAIA brand and introducing NAAIA to people who didn't know who we were, and helping people remember who we are or get reacquainted with who we are now as well as we do those events. And then 3 is really us making sure that we had a solid foundation in terms of the programming pillars and what types of programs we were offering and why. What's our lane to be in and what's not our lane to be in, we leave to other people, but engage them in partnership as well, to really make sure that we're having consistent and meaningful experience at every level, every interaction across our association. And so some wins that we've had early on so far. So in 2024, we closed at 2.75 million in revenue. We did $106,000 between our JL Tillman scholarships and our talent competition award payouts. We did 92% of our partners came back, which is an increase in our retention rate. And that's actually now a little bit higher from when I first ran this number. We had a number of partners just reconfirm in the last month or so. So I think that number now is closer to 95, 96% partnership retention rate. We've grown our national office staff, which many of you will remember that there were 2 people working for NAAIA in 2022. We now have a team of 16, which equates to about 9.5 FTEs working so that we can be more responsive, that we can do more programs, and we can be more intentional about what it is that we're doing. We had 1,000 people at our conference in New Orleans last year, had such a fantastic time. We were expecting 1,500 in Philadelphia this year, which is very different than the 200, 250 attendees that we had at conference in 2019 and before. And the one we're really, really proud of as well is being recognized by our peers, the American Society of Association Executives, with a Power of Associations Award for our next steps on the journey study. And that was a really proud moment. It was a very busy time. We left conference in New Orleans and then went to DC to accept our award the next week. So no rest for the weary, but it was worthwhile for us to go. We are the first BIPOC association to earn a Power of Associations award. And so it was major for us being in the room. A lot of people kept coming over to our table and said, "Who are y'all? What's going on here?" It was like, no, we are not the entertainment for this. We are an association. We're present, and we are award winners as well. So that was a great moment to be recognized on that stage. A couple of other things that we've done that you are familiar with. So the brand work that we engaged in 2023 and rolled out our New Look, New NAAIA brand in June of 2023. And we have continued to see our followership on LinkedIn grow. We had 1,000 people following us on LinkedIn in June of 2022. I think DJ would tell us that we now have almost 15,000 people following us, and our press releases are going farther and wider and being picked up by industry media. Your posts as chapters their reach is farther than they've been before as well. And so how we are showing up when we do events with our retractables, with our step and repeat backgrounds, with our polos, and our NAAIA lapel pins, all of those things are really helping to grow our brand impression and help people see who we are, inquire about us, and want to get involved as well. Certainly expanding our chapter footprint has been a significant portion of this journey and of this strategy. You all are familiar that we just onboarded our largest cohort of new chapters in NAAIA's history from March and April. And we are not done. So there's a few other names and folks that you will be meeting with as well and helping to welcome into the NAAIA network as we continue on our road to 50 professional chapters. A number of folks really engaged on the ground, taking leadership roles, saying, I want to bring NAAIA to our community. And I almost want to call the roll, but I don't want to miss anybody. So I know there's a number of our newer chapter board directors that are on. So just, hey, good to see y'all. Glad that you are here. And thank you for helping to introduce NAAIA to your community and help to bring NAAIA right where you are. We've made some shifts in programming, big shifts in programming. In 2022, we were doing about 75 hours of professional development programming. We are now doing about 150 to 170, inclusive of conference, our virtual summits, our Advancing Inclusion webinar series. There are programs that we have for our partner network, senior DEI officers, and we might change that name because a lot of their titles have changed as well. But the folks inside of our partner organizations who are leading the work around inclusion and equity and belonging, we have a quarterly roundtable best practice sharing, and sometimes emotional support that happens for that group. And we certainly have stood up a lot of programming around emerging leaders. I see there's a couple of folks, I think Wanisha Greenhill is on, Alexander Hatter is on, maybe Bree Allen is on, all members of our inaugural National Emerging Leaders Council, doing the work and really ensuring that NAAIA is appropriately engaging and helping to skill future leaders of this industry, and making sure that we are grounding them appropriately with what it is that they need to have at this stage in their career. So continuing to make really good progress in that area. And so as we really think about how we go after these three primary outcomes around Vision 2030, we really wanted to think about how NAAIA needed to be staffed and structured in order for us to do that, and what type of resources as well we wanted to make sure that you had as chapter leaders. And so certainly a lot of chapters are utilizing their brand backdrops and all of those items that have made their way to you. And we have seen just tremendous response to the pictures on LinkedIn when you've been doing fairs and participating at other events and setting up booths. It's been really wonderful. Certainly, you saw a couple of weeks ago, as went into effect on Sunday, the transition from executive director led to CEO led for NAAIA, a significant move, one that we've been talking about now for about 3 years, of what are the milestones that we needed to see in terms of expanding our reach, in terms of the dollars that we were bringing in. And really, and I would say I was only in part part of the deliberation. This was a board decision that they really spent some great time thinking about, particularly at this moment in time, that this change was such a statement to the industry about our staying power, that we're not backing away from what it is that we're doing. So certainly not inviting trouble from anyone, we're not spoiling for a fight, but that the fact that the board had the courage to make this change that members will get to affirm next week, in the midst of kind of this environment that we're in, I think is a significant statement that we can all be proud of as well. So you see some names, well, you don't see names here, you see faces here on the screen. We mentioned going from 2 to 16 staff members. So you see a number of folks here that you may only see at conference, but they are working very actively behind the scenes to make sure that NAAIA continues to be able to support and enable our members to carry on our programming, to make sure that we have the revenue that we need in order to do the work that we need to do as well. I wonder if anyone on this call has attended a regional forum. I know the answer to that is yes. This was our 3rd year of doing regional forums, and they've been well received, I would say, by our membership. Attendance is not quite where we'd like it to be, and we've been experimenting with the timing of the regional forums as well. The first year we did them, I think they went from May to July, and then we got feedback that it was a little too close to conference, and so we have moved them now toward the spring. That seems to have worked a little bit better, and also kept it away from some of the other industry conferences as well. But regional forums was one of the things that came from direct feedback that came in through our brand process, that had been ongoing conversation among a number of chapters. And we had chapters, particularly in the Northeast, who had piloted doing kind of a precursor to regional forums as well, that went very well and was good for our partners and really good for our members as well. And so something that we will continue in the future and we will continue iterating on. So each year might not look exactly the same for regional forums, but we will continue to make shifts and changes in that program. And I want to thank in particular the Greater Kansas City chapter, the Chicago chapter, and the Metro DC chapter, who are our 3 hosts this year for our regional forums. You all did a fantastic job really creating the space that welcomed us in, and were just very helpful in our process. So we will see where regional forums will go next year. We have been moving them around the country into some other areas. And so we'll see where we'll be on deck for regional forums next year. And so hopefully we'll be able to share with you those cities by the end of the year as well. Some of you are aware, as you've been participating in a documentary. So we actually just wrapped up in Columbus last week, filming for our NAAIA documentary. So you will see there's a 3-part, about 10 to 12 minutes in each episode, that really delves into the history of NAAIA, how we got started, what the early concerns were, our wins through NAAIA, and really where we are heading in the future as well. So kind of part documentary and part a look forward on where we are. So we will be sharing a preview with you at conference. So you'll see the trailer for the documentary, and then we'll share more details with you about the rollout plan and where we have the events where you'll be able to show the documentary and have discussions yourselves as well as a chapter event for 2026 as well. So very, very excited about that, and we'll be excited to share with you the documentary. Project 3 of the 6 that I'm sharing with you today, our next mentorship program. So based on very loud in the NAAIA census last year, was a request for a national mentoring program to be organized by NAAIA National. And so we know that there are a number of chapters who have mentorship programs, some for college students, some for high school students, some for emerging leaders. So all that was fine. We established a one-on-one career coaching mentorship program as well. We have just over 100 people that are participating in this inaugural cohort. We are getting really good feedback from folks participating in the next mentorship program. And I think kind of the one thing I would say for us here as NAAIA's leadership is getting people to be mentors in the program. We had a whole lot of requests for mentees in the program last year, but certainly one of the areas where we could certainly use more support from yourselves, from others in your chapter who might not necessarily think of themselves as a mentor. But what I would tell you is that as we look through the request that came from mentees, they were very specific about, I'm just looking for someone who could help me think through what my next step would be. I'm looking for someone who has experience as a speaker. I'm looking for someone who has their own agency that's going well that I want to be paired with, right? So it's not necessarily that you need to be a senior vice president, that you have 40 years of experience to be able to share with someone in order for you to be a mentor in the program. All of you have something that you can offer. And the time commitment for it is we're asking for a conversation once a month. Could be a half hour, could be an hour, could be flexible based on your schedule and theirs. And so just please consider joining the mentorship program. You will see the call for mentors go out. I think Ashley will be able to do that in October or November this year. So we will recruit mentors first, and then we will recruit mentees this year as well. So we're excited to kick off the second cohort in January, which I expect we will have more than 100 people seeking to be part of that program. But my early seed planting for you, and I know there's a number of, I'm looking at our attendance list here, a number of you are mentees in the program, a number of you are mentors in the program, some of you are both. And so we just encourage you to stay involved with the program, and particularly think about offering your experience as a mentor in the program as well. Since 2013, we have had the J.L. Tillman Scholarship Program, and we've had some wonderful success stories. You see two here on the screen, but there are certainly others of folks who have been J.L. Tillman scholars, or even some of our talent competition students who have stayed with us as members, but are in the industry, leading well right where they are, and have really bright futures ahead of them. And we also had noticed that there are some people we give money to, and it's there to help them in their educational attainment, pay that tuition bill, do whatever it is that they need to do with those dollars. And that's been fine as well. What we've been talking about is how do we, for the people who want it, to offer them deeper engagement and more access and more exposure to NAAIA and to the industry as well. So in 2026, we will expand the scholarship program into a fellowship program to offer career coaching and advice, hopefully to help with internship, so getting internships for the summer and staying with us in the industry. And really working to create a program to help wrap our arms around these college students, to help them stay the course, and then hopefully for them to come into the industry as well. So we'll be excited to share more details with you about exactly what that will look like, and if there's any particular role that we would ask you to play in that program. Second to last one is we have a number of members who have been doing research, either recently earned doctorates. A couple of people I see on here. So we've got Dr. Preston, soon to be Dr. Collins, Dr. Benson as well. So people who have been doing some really fantastic research, and many of their research projects have tied into work that we do here at NAAIA, and thinking about what's happening in the industry, and ways in which the industry can do a better job of developing and really supporting and nurturing Black and African American professionals within the industry. And so one of the things that we have been talking about is, where's the right place for that? Do we add a day at conference? Do we do something independent? And so our thought is that we will do something independent, that we will do an annual lecture on Black history, likely in the month of June, or May or June. But then we will also ask members and then others who have this fantastic research that they've been doing that we should hear about, to do presentations on their research, to be able to share it. And for a few folks who are in the middle of their processes, where they need people to take surveys and that sort of thing as well, that this could be a place where they could utilize their NAAIA family as a way of helping them accomplish their research as well. So we are naming this lecture, our annual lecture and research symposium, after Denise Lloyd. Many of you know that Denise Lloyd Withrow was NAAIA's first national board chair, the only chair to serve 3 years as the chair, an accomplished broker, just a force of nature. If you've had the opportunity to meet Denise, she's just a force of nature. So a wonderful way for us to honor her and ensure that her legacy is celebrated, and to thank her for her many, many, many contributions, not just to NAAIA, but to the insurance industry at large. And then last, but certainly not least, we've gotten several questions about the NAAIA Foundation. And so there's been, as you know, and we shared at conference and at our membership town hall last year, we've been doing some work to really help stand up the NAAIA Foundation. They are actively applying for grants from a number of foundations. They have some dollars in the bank now. And so they are starting to really think through their work and how they interact with you as chapter leaders, how they support programming at NAAIA, and then what other programming they might offer uniquely that's different than the programming that we offer through our webinar series at NAAIA. And just really how do we go forward from here, making a broader impact in our overall community. So we are really excited about the work that we've been doing with the foundation, and they've been trucking away. And so we are expecting that the foundation will be fully self-sustaining by 2028, but certainly you'll hear more and see more from the foundation before then. So I think that's it in terms of the slides. And I see this is telling me there are 82 messages or so in the chat. I'll pause here and also just ask my lieutenants if there are any questions in the chat that you want to raise up for me while I look through them quickly. And if there's anyone who wants to come off mute and ask a question or make a comment, I would welcome you to do that at this time as well.
Questions are in the Q&A box, Omari.
In the Q&A box. All right, let me go there. 2024 revenue, does it include rebates to chapters? Yes, in the sense that the membership dollars collected are included in the revenue numbers. So the chapter rebates are included there because that's money that comes into NAAIA National. That revenue number is only what comes in, not what goes out to you all as chapters. Let's see, and then Nicole's question, Madam President. So each chapter, this question is around membership reports and membership rebates. So if we have your information as a chapter on a quarterly basis, we are sending you, after we have audited the financials, the rebate of $100 for each member who has renewed within that last quarter. And then similarly, on that audited list, you are also receiving the membership report of members that have joined in that last quarter and kind of your current membership roster to date. And then in addition to that, each chapter receives new member alerts. So in between your membership reports, you also receive the new member alerts that tell you, here's who's joined your chapter and here's their information, so that you can add them to your membership report. And then in the next quarter's membership report, then you would see that member listed there as well. So it sounds like we might need to connect offline about Indiana, but that is the process that we've set out. That's actually been our process for a little while, but this year I think we gave dates as well to when you would be able to expect those things. So good question. Let's see, is there, from Ngozi, is there a component of Vision 2030 that focuses on agents beyond what already exists, roundtable and affinity program? There is, but not directly included in the deck. So there's a couple of things that we are continuing to do for our agent broker members. So we do have the agent roundtable, and we do have the affinity program as well for with Chubb and with Selective. And we are in some talks around exploring additional affinity program partners. We are also in some talks around the creation of an agent advisory council to weigh in on what additional programming we should and could offer to our agent broker members. That'll probably be the next thing that you see. And there's a number of folks who in the NAAIA census this year raised their hand as agents and brokers who said that they would like to be part of that work. So that'll be the next thing. And then really working with that council and the chapter agent engagement and development chairs on what those programs will be. And then we'll be able to see, we'll all know together what those new programs will be for our agent and broker members. Let's see here. And then, yes, inflation, cost, expense cuts that companies are applying. Will conference fees continue to increase? Yes, is the short answer. And that's because our cost for doing conference has increased as well. There are a couple of things that we are doing to really help with that. One is we are much more intentionally, and I would even say perhaps aggressively, going after conference sponsorship from folks, not just within our partnership, but really who are not NAAIA partners. And so all those 10 by 10 booths that you see at our career fair and expo at conference, there's a good number of people who are paying to be there. It's not included in their partnership. And so we are actively working to get more of those folks here participating in conference, and that helps to offset some of the cost. And we're going after conference sponsorship across the board as a category in a different way than we were doing 2 or 3 years ago to really help offset that cost. The real attendee cost for conference is probably closer to $1,700 or higher. As we think about that, we are very much aware, particularly for people who have to pay for conference out of pocket. And as we think about the wealth gap that exists for Blacks and African Americans, and so there's a line that we've drawn in terms of total max out-of-pocket cost. If we made an assumption that you're an independent agent and you are paying for everything yourself, or if you are paying for everything yourself because your company is not paying for your membership, they're not paying for your conference registration, they're not paying for your regional forum registration, right? And so there is a max kind of out-of-pocket cost that we watch as we think about conference registration and kind of all of our other costs. And costs for everything are going up. And one of the key differences for us at NAAIA is that we are so large now that we're not just in a hotel ballroom in the way in which we were in before. We're utilizing convention center, we're utilizing hotel spaces. There's partner events that are happening around the city, wherever we are for conference. So there's many, many, many different components that are happening during conference that we are utilizing to help people really justify the cost of coming to conference and ensure that the value proposition is strong. I will say last year, do an early bird discount, and the early bird discount cost us $22,700 last year. And so we really do encourage you that when conference registration opens, if you are planning to attend conference, that is the best time for you. If you're not on a partner funded membership, you really want to get in during that early bird period. So that's a financial hit for us at NAAIA, but something that we do offer. And then membership cost for conference is always $100 less than the general public pricing for conference as well. So you can, if you do the early bird registration, you're really getting a $200 discount on the conference registration cost as a member. Zakia, when will conference registration open? As soon as possible. So the conference committee has been hard at work and have gone through workshop data submissions from the RFP. So, and they are, I think, 98% done as well with that work. And so we are going to actively make some offers. The key thing with conference registration is that you select your workshops. And so we know that people, and we know this industry at large, is that if we open registration, people go in and register today, right? And then we have to come back and ask people to then select your workshops. People will not come back and do that. So we want to have a one-stop shop throughout. And so that's the way that conference registration is set up. So our goal is to open end of June, early July timeframe. So because we know everybody is chomping at the bit about conference registration. So we'd love to open it as soon as possible so you can stop asking us and you can go ahead and get registered and tell everybody you know to be registered as well. We have considered, so your question, Tracy, we have considered a virtual option at a lower price point, and whether or not that would be worthwhile. The feedback that we get from the NAAIA conference, so this is one that we continuously explore. It's not something we're doing right away this year. The feedback that we get from conference is different than other conferences. Being in the room is the thing that matters most. And so what we continually hear in the feedback is it's the networking spaces, it's who you're sitting next to, it's who you get a drink with at the bar, it's who you go to dinner with, right? And so we really, in every effort, are working to encourage people to make the room in their schedule and come to Philadelphia and really participate in that full value proposition. And so in that full family reunion type experience that we have at conference as well. So that's really kind of the concern we have about kind of taking portions of conference and then thinking about, do we only do the plenaries? We don't do any of the workshops, or do we do select workshops? And so it is something we talk about it every year about whether we'll do it and when we might do it and what that looks like. And so certainly something that we're thinking about. Jeff, do you have something you want to add there?
Of course I do. One other major consideration on our side is a logistic and partnership consideration. We have a number of partners that will not permit recording of recording and streaming. So it would really impact our ability to provide some of our programming and not in a small way. And for those of you that are familiar, the cost of streaming and things is also an impact point as well in trying to forecast how many people would be coming and not coming. So we have been exploring it. It hasn't been feasible for us thus far, but it's definitely something we have continued to explore.
All right, great. There's a question on global partnerships. Some of you may have seen the post on LinkedIn. Rebecca Ratliff, who's our National Board Secretary and Global Partnerships Liaison, has really been nurturing a number of relationships with partners around the globe. And we've had strong, I would say a strong attendance from a number of global partners in London, in Toronto, in Bermuda, and then this year from the African continent and some other places in the Caribbean. So one of the things that we are looking at doing at conference this year, we'll see how it goes, is having a global partnership meeting with kind of liaisons from those organizations to really sit down and put on paper, what does a formalized partnership look like with each of these organizations. I will say informally, we do this already. And as you know, it's in our nature just to take care of each other wherever we can. And so when we learn, there was a member in Canada, Dionne Bowers is the president of the Canadian Association of Black Insurance Professionals. She had a member, one of her emerging leaders who was in, I forget what, I feel like it was Chicago, that was coming to do a rotation in Chicago. And so I called Brett and Levez and I said, hey, you got this young man who's hanging out in your city for 3 months or so, take care of him. And they did. And we've done the same when we've had members that have gone on work trips particularly extended assignments overseas in London. There's a group in London we've connected them to what used to be the Afro-Caribbean Insurance Network, now Equity City. We haven't had to do that yet in Bermuda. We've done the reverse of someone coming from Bermuda to the US for an extended stint. So we already do it. And we also want to really formalize the way in which we go about doing it as well. So that's great. And then, so two other questions. One, have we thought about partnering with other African-American organizations? Yes. And so in particular, this one's interesting, National Association of Black Hotel Owners, Operators, and Developers. I don't think I haven't had a conversation with them. I can say that. Jeff, I don't know if you know this organization already or not. So that might be one for us to look into. But yes, we've had a number of conversations with other Black organizations from NAACP, Urban League, the US Black Chamber of Commerce invited us. They had a White House roundtable last year. I don't expect that they will be having one this year, but had convened a number of associations at the White House and invited NAAIA to be part of that conversation as well. And so we had a really lovely conversation around some resources and other things that we would have access to as well. So that has also been, that's been great. And so we are continuing to forge relationships there with other, particularly Black and African-American organizations, but then also Black media as well. So we've started some conversation with Black Enterprise, which was really exciting. Last year, we were featured in Black Enterprise. So we've done a number of interviews. We've suggested a number of members for interviews as well. And so like that's been really great to see in Black Enterprise and then other Black news outlets, in addition to all the mainstream ones, Insurance Journal, Business Insurance, Insurance Business America, that we're going after as well.
On the question he's asking, or whoever he or she is asking regarding that particular association, the size of the NAAIA National Conference puts us in a position where we have significantly large room blocks that are in proximity to so that presents a little bit of a challenge. So I am familiar with this organization, but the size and scope of the NAAIA National Conference, the financial incentives that different cities provide us for coming to their cities usually stems through their Convention and Visitors Bureau. So there are some contractual reasons that we don't have as much leeway for boutique type of hotels and things as well. But we do explore. We use as many Black-owned vendors as possible, point blank, for everything on NAAIA national level, whether it is conference, whether it is speakers, whether everything and every time we can, that is always our preference. And we are very intentional about that as well.
Yeah. Yep, that is great. Charles raised the question about bylaws and checks and balances. So just so that to help frame up, and Charles, you might have something you would like to say as well. So to help frame up this, so the board created on March 2nd, the president and CEO position. And so, and then hired me into that role as well. And so you all received an update pushed to you, to all members, around changing language that's currently in the bylaws that commission the board of directors to hire an executive director. And so there are, I think, I won't guess, there's a couple of places in the bylaws that reference executive director as the board's employee for leading the association. And the bylaws change is, it's literally the swapping out of executive director with president and CEO. And so the way that the process for amending the bylaws happens is that it requires a 15-day notice to members of any upcoming or proposed changes for the bylaws. And so you all received that, and on June 9th, on Monday, all NAAIA members will receive a ballot asking you to vote yes or no or abstain on changing the language in the bylaw from executive director to president and CEO. Last year, we made an extensive number of changes to the bylaws. And so the way we went about that process was also fairly similar in that there was a committee that worked for a year and a half that included a number of chapter leaders that reviewed all the areas of the bylaws and what we were updating at that point in time. There was a review session that happened with chapter leaders as well on what those changes were, and then members received the documents around that change. And so last year, a number of changes were made to the bylaws in concert with national elections that happened in September. So we did not want to include this change in September and said we could do this one a little sooner. And what we were advised through a number of consultants and through legal counsel and standard nonprofit governance practice was that the board needed to create the position first before members created or voted on this language change in the bylaws. And Charles's question to us was that it felt out of order. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Charles, but I think fair assessment that it felt out of order that the board made the change and announced the change before members voted on the bylaws. So that was the question at hand.
Yeah, and if I can on these two pieces, like how you doing now, Charles, the individual of that particular conversation. No, 100% right. There's been so many amazing things that y'all have, rolled out. I mean, especially in this call right here. I mean, we're going over so many different areas where we started to see the mentorship, so many things that have been added, so many things that have been done. And, as we're trying to build and grow, obviously things get out of whack. We need to kind of tighten it up and figure a couple things out. The biggest part of the conversation around NAAIA has always been this feeling of community and of servanthood, right? Of being a person of the people, by the people, if you will. And a lot of those transitions, of course, in the 2024 vote a couple months ago and then to now has taken a lot of the control and the speed and the processes and has moved it a little further up national over the last couple of years, let's call it, right? And one of the things that we're looking at here is, of course, that transition of, as you put it, just of verbiage, right? Of what the national team can and cannot hire. But also looking through the bylaws, it does specifically state that that position, the executive one, right, be something that they can hire on, et cetera. But then, of course, the 2/3 was supposed to be done before, not after a hiring decision was made. Now, I'm not legal, right? That's never my conversation, right? I wouldn't own an insurance agency in Houston when it floods if I was out here with a legal background, right? So my conversation is more along the lines of having vote and conscience for those that are able to speak to it. And of course, it's not just yourself, right? Like it's what does this path look like for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, in the future? Like, look, I've had the sad situation of my grandfather passing away just a little while ago, and we're trying to put things back together for him. And just like that, well, hey, in the case that anyone has to replace you or any other leadership, right? There's little way of details on checks, balances, veto report, like just different things that would normally be a part of a grander discussion that I just didn't see quite added and or expanded upon before the role was implemented. And my conversation and my mainline question is this the best place to go into it and have that particular, or is it supposed to be a larger forum with more individuals able to speak, just not those of us in power as board members, but a larger scope?
Well, we certainly thank you for raising that. There's two meetings that we have. One that I created, and then one that's required in the bylaws. So the membership town hall at the end of this month on June 6th, and then the annual membership meeting is really the place to raise that. I would be curious, and probably a longer conversation than we have time for.
Oh, of course. Yeah, this is the last second of the last minute of the last part of the game, right?
Yeah, I would be curious on your thoughts around where you see power being stripped away from the chapter leaders, because I don't see that at all, but I want to see what you're seeing in your seat.
Well,
it's been a
anyone
while.
as a CEO that never feels that power is stripped away from anyone, right? Like that's the
I don't know that I would say that, but one of the things that the way I go about doing this role is I think about being a NAAIA member first and foremost.
Absolutely.
In decisions that we make. I think about being an inaugural chapter president. I think about being a partner liaison, right? So these are all roles that I had before I was staff, and certainly before I was CEO. And I would say, particularly being a NAAIA member and being a chapter leader are more important in like my thought process around how we go about doing things. But not just for me, but because we had chapter leaders involved in those changes that were made last year. And so, we work to make sure that there's representation kind of from all of our core constituent groups whenever changes like that are made. They're never made arbitrarily or in the dark, as we do really with everything from the Tillman Scholarship selection is NAAIA members. That's not staff or just the board that do that. Conference workshops, the committee that is reviewing those, it's the committee that made that decision. That wasn't me or Jefta or Ash, anybody else, or Susan Johnson, who's our conference chair. So really through a number of processes that we have from the committee that worked on our brand and visual identity to how we plan regional forums, to the emerging leaders work, like in every place, we involve member perspectives and chapter leader perspectives in that conversation, really to make sure that we don't do exactly what you're raising as a caution of like, there's a group of people in power in the room who only make decisions that benefit them, right? And so, so something I'd love to explore more with you is maybe we'll pull up the bylaws and kind of walk through them together and see if there's something you're seeing that we're not seeing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm open for that conversation along with anyone else who would like to, kind of have that or raise that along with us. And to your point, right, you have some experience at the levels of starting a chapter, growing a chapter, being in the chapter, and kind of flowing through it. Now, as NAAIA is, and of course, all organizations are forever living, right? Like they go on much farther than us, right? Even when it comes to the Constitution or anything else, it has to be built with like kind of breaks and checks and bylaws and so on and so forth, right? If we're able to clone you and keep, putting you back in place, right? It makes for a great place, of course, for some consistency. But of course, as time goes on, making sure that we, as they say, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? So it's one of those things where as long as we're making sure that whisper on the side of our head is, remember, we're still a man, we're still human, right? Is able to be said and kind of walk through by more than just board members in small closed rooms, but also for a larger chapter is kind of where my mainline conversation comes from. And I would love to sit down and have that conversation along with any chapter leaders that feel the same.
Yeah, I would love that. I think that's also a good segue, something I didn't include in this conversation. As you think about checks and balances, is thinking about who you vote for on the national board, right? Because that is the governing body of our association. They are elected by members to really represent the membership interest in our association as well. So we are at that time of year where also next week, I don't remember, I think on the 10th, you will see the invitation language go out around NAAIA National Board elections. And you'll see the qualifications for national board members, and you'll see the timing for that process and all of that as well. So
yeah, seeing that as well on the CEO and president side would be fantastic. You know, same conversation. So I mean, you're right. Having that transparency is key.
Well, I don't know that NAAIA will ever have like an elected president and CEO because it's an employee position. The way associations are set up is that that person is hired by the board rather than elected by the members. But you know, it'll be an interesting question. I think you can have that conversation with Ricky and Susan on how they might be thinking about the hiring process for my successor and like who comes after me. Listen, I just got this job, so I'm not leaving it right away, Charles. So Charles is like, who's coming after you? I just got
we always got control. It's all good. No, it's a part of the process, right? It's always a part of the conversation. It's one of those where you've walked the path that a lot of other people that might be in the same position has never walked before. And working your way up through and creating and growing and knowing what the organization came from and where it is now. And that's not a blueprint that's easily created or cloned or anything along those lines. And outlining what that looks like or where the control and power comes from is huge. So no, thank you so much for just taking the time and even having this conversation forum on it impromptu. Right. But I would love to have that conversation later, and just thank you for the time and the place for it. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, we don't see any other. Let me just double check. There's one more in the Q&A box. Oh, no. So that's all right. So yes, I guess on this question, if the majority of the votes came in, that where people said no, what would happen? That's a good question. I'll have to ask legal counsel about that one as well. It would just mean the language in the bylaws doesn't change. But it doesn't fundamentally change the position because that's a decision that's up to the board. So that would be interesting. I guess we will all know on June 13th when that vote closes. All right, I don't see any other outstanding questions in the chat or in the Q&A box. I know we've been on for an hour and 15 minutes. I want to thank you for joining and really being deeply involved in the conversation and your engagement in the chat. What we'll do is we'll let you go, but we're willing to stay on a few minutes in case there are other questions that folks want to have, and we'll stop the recording as well. But thank you for joining. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for caring about this work that we do at NAAIA and ensuring that we are supporting in the way that we should be supporting and leading in the way that we should be leading. I truly appreciate each of you. I look forward to seeing you online at our membership town hall at the end of this month, and certainly at our national conference in Philadelphia this September. So with that, thank you for joining and wishing you a great rest of your day.